Alrighty. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Athena After Dark. I hope you're all doing good tonight. Um, we have a great show. I'm so excited about my guest tonight. I love getting all these good answers. So I'm definitely looking forward to her perspective on the questions. So we're gonna get right into the show, and off we go. All right, that's super exciting. I'm learning how to push these buttons. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about that. Next week we're gonna change the view a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and let Don be the producer. Yeah, go ahead.
You are?
He's like,
Chopper wants to know if you're
go,
live.
go. I'm live. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, and my fans, they're all here. My cheering squad of however we're on the phone. So yeah, tonight we're gonna have some discussions about different perspective. We're gonna get right to it. Like I said, we're grateful for everybody, all the support. For those of you who are joining live, watching later, participating, thanks for the emails, the crazy ones, the cool ones. I am learning how to go ahead and put stuff up there and work on the social media. But when you guys send stuff, if you're going to tell me about cool stuff like your puppy or your motorcycle or stuff, if you could send a picture, I think I pretty much mastered a way to get it into here, and I can show it when I say your name on Five Good Things. So this is Athena After Dark, and it is home of the Five Good Things, and that's because when I was growing up, I might have an attack, a pissy fit, or whatever, all kids do. My dad would say, "Hey, stop, tell me five good things. After that, if you still need to vent, tell me whatever, go ahead." So you get through five good things and you have a different outlook, a little more positive, because things could be way worse, I guess. Helps change the narrative, helps keep you on the positive track, because you do have good things. So some days are really hard and it's difficult to remember that. So this show I'm doing for the fun of doing it. I'm lucky enough to be around people who are incredible human beings, icons in the industry that I'm fortunate enough to have a career in. I'll just say it that way, and be a participant in a lot of the things that are going on. So, yeah. All right. So, my five good things for the tonight. We're going to start with that. Meeting new incredible people. That's wonderful. My motorcycle life, all of it. I always say that one. That's a good one. This week for me, it's confidence in myself and my ability to do my best no matter what it may be. Life challenges you with all kinds of things. And sometimes it's daily, sometimes what happens lasts for a long period of time. And you go through all the changes that brings along, whether it's good stuff, bad stuff, in between stuff, indifferent. There's always challenges, and life is really about the choices that you make and how you're going to deal with things. So we learn that all the time, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I reassure myself that it's okay to be confident, not cocky, but confident. When you know something and you're good at something, you do it and you spread it as much as you can. Be helpful and kind. That's my thing. So new opportunities that happen and bring incredible experiences. That for me is really cool. This has been a really great year. I'm officially a member of the Antique Motorcycle Club of America, which is fantastic. I am going with the Riveters chapter across Route 66 for Chicks on 66 run. Our guest tonight is Miss Lori Faber Cycle, and Chicago Motorcycle Supply. So she is an administrator to the ladies of Antique Motorcycle Club of America. She is an inspiration to me. I can only say I love seeing her post. She lifts me up. She reminds me that, shit could just be worse. And then sometimes it is, but it's okay to dust yourself off, pick yourself up, put your big biker girl panties on, and ride on. Let's move on. I get it. And there's ups and downs to all that. So I'm grateful for that. And then, of course, my fifth good thing is being right here, right now, doing this little show, because it's fun and I'm actually enjoying it, and I'm getting pretty good at pushing these buttons. I can remember to do that. Okay, so next we have the Ask Athena question. Again, I'm doing my best to get with everybody and be pleasant about it. It's, like I said, some are pretty dry, some are off the chain, just wackadoo, and then there's a few that are in the middle. So tonight, this one's fitting, being that our guest is Miss Lori. She'll probably have a little input on this. I know what my input is. So JD Morrow of Wildwood, New Jersey. Why does everyone say old Harleys leak oil everywhere? Okay, I actually had to think about how I was going to respond to that, because I have some real good biker smart ass comments that they they don't leak, they mark their spot. There's certain things. So in my professional outlook of it all, it really comes from the fact that over time parts get warped, gasket surfaces don't get cleaned correctly, certain procedures on how you put them back together, all that matters. And that's something that I've learned over time, and I'm grateful for the patients to be able to know the difference, because I've through trials and tribulations, and that is something that people don't take into consideration. Earlier in the 60s and the 70s, and everybody was chopping up motorcycles because they wanted a different look. They didn't want what, and especially in the biker community, they didn't want to be the same as the motorcycle enthusiasts who were riding the motorcycles that were pristine and stock and just all that. They wanted to be different. And there's a long history of that. I can't explain all that to you right here, right now. However, so when you cut stuff up and you fit stuff and you fabricate, not everybody does it the same way. So the end result can be good, it can be bad, it can be anywhere in between. That's why they call them choppers, because they would chop them up. We didn't have a variety of stuff. We had stock stuff and we cut it up to make it different. So yeah, pretty much they say that because traditionally, like I said, over time, parts wear, gasket surfaces, things aren't properly done, screws break, any kind of thing, drain plugs. So you'll have that. And then the residue from when things do happen, you don't get it all off all the time. So, I hope that answered your question. I went on the Cannonball in 2010, the first one, with Chris Summer Simmons. I was her mechanic, and for Miss Effie, for Team Effie. And I learned I have a whole new respect for a total loss oil system. I never really could comprehend how all of it worked. And after working on that motorcycle, the tow and go and all this stuff, because I get that. I rode jockey shift and suicide clutch and whatever, but it's a unique, magical creature, I would say, because all motorcycles kind of are magical creatures to me. So we'll get off of the dorky stuff now, because I could go on about all that. All right, let's see if I can push another button here and hide that. All right, here we go. All right, so this one is really cool, and I'm excited about this. So I was telling everybody that we would have a cultural corner. It would be books and movies and plays and that stuff. So we've hit books pretty much the whole way so far with Miss Gloria, and this book is something my grandson, Baron, has just gotten into with Grandpa. I had never read the book, but once I did, I was like, wow, this book is all about imagination. It's The Mouse and the Motorcycle by Beverly Cleary. So this story is about a mouse who runs into a hotel room, and he finds this kid's little motorcycle toy, and then he's hiding and he sees the kid making the noise, boom, 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 and they get this whole relationship because the mouse realizes that the kid can hear him and he can hear the kid. And so they have a little friendship. They build this friendship, and it's all based around this really nice red chrome motorcycle that Ralph eventually gets to take a travel on, and he gets in trouble because he sneaks it out. And he does all those things we did when we were young and we weren't supposed to be going out of the house with our. So if anybody has kids, grandkids, or just wants a really good read, I read it and I just thought it was a phenomenal book. The friendship, the moral to the story is really incredible. So I really did enjoy that. So that's our thing for the week. Today's product of the week, we're going to skip that because we have a really good guest, and I don't feel like talking about a bunch of junk. You guys know all that. You can see it in any magazine, any newspaper, on the news, whatever. We got stuff to do here. We'll skip that tonight. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to push another button. Let's see if I can make it work. Skip that. Okay, so we're going to our fans' 5 good things. Okay, let's take down the mouse picture. I did it. Okay, so Nick from San Diego says he booked his first trip to Sturgis. That's one of his 5 good things. And I think that's awesome because anybody who is a rider, whether you're a new rider or older rider, if you've never made the trip, the experience is once in a lifetime. And luckily, if you're lucky enough, you can stack up all different kinds of trips and have many trips of a lifetime all wrapped up. And usually when you ride a motorcycle, you do. Sometimes you have to stop and think about them all, but really, there's some really good stuff in there. So, yeah, you have to plan for that and make sure that you make as many friends as you can, and then make sure that you go back and see them again, because some people have friendships that are strictly built on just Sturgis. just going to the rally. They plan every year. They're going to see their friends and they do it. But like the Kevin Costner movie, Dances with Wolves, there's places you ride out there and it's the most phenomenal. It gives you that feeling, it's, I tell a lot of people, and I don't know, everybody's spirituality is what it is. I believe truly that being on horses and being on a motorcycle is as close to God as you can get. Like you have your conversations, you can do what you're going to do. Some people it's the universe, some people it's, Mother Earth, however it is, whatever you believe in. But that's about as close as you get because it's you and just the earth around you. So you have to be in touch to some degree, So those trips, they provide a lot of that. So that's awesome. And ride as much as you can. You can do 1,000 miles a day in Sturgis, ride around and don't get stuck, just spend a day drinking, park your motorcycle somewhere where you can walk to it, hopefully, and crash out there. I don't know. They don't do that anymore. When we were younger, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that. Holy shit. Okay. So we used to laugh because old timers used to say that about us and now we're them. Okay. So when we were younger, we would do stuff and we would get wasted, we would drink and ruckus, there's mayhem everywhere. Not bad mayhem, just, things, just fun, exciting stuff. And you get messed up. You go grab your leather jacket and roll it up and you put it next to your motorcycle on the kickstand side and you just kind of curl up and use your jacket as your pillow and you were good. Some days it was, you were in an area where you just weren't really like classified as a regular citizen, so you would get hassled. But if you were at like a bike rally or an event or something like that, that was no big deal. That was a very common thing. That was like, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it got a little different, so that was a whole other thing. Okay, so let's see. Angelina, Newport Richie, her dad just retired from the Army at 66 years old. Oh, sorry. And to congratulate him, we're doing a family trip riding across the country. That's cool. I did Fairbanks, Alaska to Key West. That was 12 weeks we stopped at Sturgis for that one too. There's some really good country out in there. And Alaska has 0.1% has been touched by man. So it's incredibly beautiful on its own. There's some roads aren't paved, even though they say they're interstates. And the summertime is 40 degrees and raining mostly. So if you go, take your rain suit, your leathers, all that stuff. And if you're in Key West, make sure you have lots of bug repellent because the mosquitoes will pick you up and carry you away. Okay. Mackenzie, he's in Savannah, Georgia. He rode the Tail of the Dragon last weekend and survived. Okay, cool. That's twisty turnies. There's a lot to that. As a new rider, I could understand where that would cause some type of anxiety. Shit, as an old rider, I can see where that would cause some type of anxiety some days. That's cool. And there are some really good roads, like I said, too, like all the way up the Rockies. There's so much stuff. And that's the cool part. Like in Alaska, you could see the mountains were snow covered. And then you're riding in the valleys and it's all grass and green. And there's caribou walking around and bears and they're scooping fish out of the water. And they're bigger than you sitting down than you are standing up. So remember that. They say in those places a fed bear is a dead bear because they become a nuisance if you feed them. I wouldn't get anywhere close. Not even. I like seeing them from this side of the zoo or wherever, but out in nature. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I don't mess with that. That's their territory. It's like the sharks here in Florida. They think you're a turtle on a surfboard, so they go after you. But I don't want to be bait. I was bait for my husband. That was about it. Okay, so let's see. Juan. Okay, so Juan says, I subscribed to your show today. That's a good one. I like that one. That's a really good one. And then Christine just opened her first biker floral shop. Okay, Christine's Flowers. That's cool. I like that. So if you're a biker, and she is in St. Louis, so if you're a biker and you need biker flowers of any kind at all, hopefully not because you messed up with your girl or you just want to send somebody some nice flowers, check out Christine's Flowers. Okay, cool. Hey, I managed to make it all the way through that and push the button. Look, there's the little thing. I love it. Next week, Don's going to do all this stuff. He is going to have fun doing this because he's going to have commentary. So I'm seeing if I can do it myself all the way in case I have to throw him out and I can take over myself. So it's all good. Anybody who knows me and him know we love each other more than anything. So that don't even matter. Okay, so this is the exciting part for me. Okay, let's see. I'm going to push some more buttons here. Okay, so tonight we have Miss Lori Faber. Okay, and now her and her husband Tom, they have Chicago Motorcycle Supply and Faber Cycle, and they are in Greenville, Michigan. And like when I say Cannonball, when I was on the Cannonball, it's a whole different thing to actually participate in those events. But when I tell you replacement parts for antique motorcycles, even to find new old stock is almost impossible. Somehow they manage to know where all the goodies are, you know. So they have it going on. They do quality parts, and wow, I'm just I'm happy. They restore older motorcycles and make the parts for them, like Don and I do for the shovel heads and the Evos. And twin cams are going to be antique soon, so that's really scary. That just means I'm older. So, all right, so we're going to bring Miss Lori in here. If I could push these buttons. Let's see. 3, 2, 1. Hey, Miss Lori. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Hold on. Aha! I did. You're so good. She's like, you turned off my microphone, right? You said you were gonna mute me. So, and it's funny because this book here, Ralph, the motorcycle and the mouse. If you haven't read that yet, or your grandkids haven't read that, you got to get a copy of that. It's really awesome. If you don't have it, tell me because I'll send it to you.
I will have to do that because Beverly Cleary was one of my favorite authors when I was a kid. So yes. I don't have that book.
And she love it. She wrote that, I think, in 1965. But wow. It's so cool, the relationship between the two of them. So, all right, well, Miss Lori. So I don't know. I probably didn't tell everybody, give you the introduction I wanted to give you because I got all excited about pushing these buttons and then I muted you. So I'm getting there.
Hey, we got it, man.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're going to have a good time. So Miss Lori, for those of you who aren't very familiar, she is the motorcycle industry and the community's one of the most inspiring ladies that I know. For me, she's active partner, like I said, in both Faber Cycle and the Chicago Motorcycle Supply, her and her husband, Tom. And she's an administrator to the ladies of the Antique Motorcycle Club of America. Did I get that right? You're an administrator, right? Yep. So anybody who's not familiar with the Antique Motorcycle Club, all right, let's see. I got this. Okay. So those are women riding their motorcycles, and that was like in the 20s. I think that comes from the museum. That might, it might even be, I think it's like it's either the teens or the 20s, that one. And then we got on Life magazine, this one here. These ladies were on Time Life magazine, the biker chicks.
Well, that's a cool one. I know which one it is.
And that's a fantastic shot. I mean, that says it all, you know. And here I explain to people, and this is a really good one too. You'll really like this. And we all love her. We talked about her last week because that was Laura's hero, and that was the book we were doing was Gloria Tremont Struck.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, she's one of our icons there. So when it comes down to it, now you guys at Faber Cycle, you guys do the parts, but you also do racing, and there's so many things that you're involved in. So what are you up to these days?
So our business originally started because my husband Tom is a machinist in tool and die, and he started making handlebars to factory specs. And he's the only person in the world that makes factory correct handlebars for like 70 years worth of motorcycles. It's incredible. So they're the only ones that you can put on your bike to be judged, and they won't take parts off, you know, because normally if you put reproduction parts on your bike and you're getting it judged, they'll take some points off for it. But our handlebars are the only ones that are so close that they don't take any points off. So that's how our business got started. And then we were let in on some deals where we could buy big piles of parts, and I've been in it right from the start. My first swap meet that I sold at was in 1999 in Davenport, Iowa. So Tom and I have been doing this together for 23 years now.
That's one of the biggest swap meets too for the antique motorcycles. That's Davenport is like the place to be yearly, right?
Oh yeah, they've probably got close to 1,000 vendors now. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That is fantastic. And you do other period accessories. Like you do all kinds of stuff, right? You do the J and the early VL models and stuff like that.
yeah, and our Chicago Motorcycle Supply line of period accessories started when we bought. They're the colored kicker pedals and grips, and some people say the kicker pedals look like popsicles. And
I agree.
yeah, and so when we bought all the inventory of that, it came with original molds from the business because they were defunct and they weren't in business anymore, and we got all the old parts with the molds. And so when we started running out of the colors that were original, then we started making our own, and our blue and yellow kicker pedals are still new old stock from back in the 40s, and they're made out of plastic because it was during World War II when rubber was in short supply. Yeah. So we're still doing it to this day, and when people started copying our parts, then we decided to register the trademark. So now it's a registered trademark line of accessories, and it's like they say, if somebody's copying you, you must be doing something right.
It's the biggest form of flattery is when somebody imitates you. It's supposed to be the biggest form of flattery. Although when it messes with your pocket, that so much isn't. But that's that thing too. It's all about making the quality part, going above and beyond and giving a shit about what you do, So it's not just something willy-nilly style that you guys just took on and said, oh, we're going to make a bunch of this, this, and this. You actually take pride in what you do. I mean, your work speaks for itself, and the recommendations from everybody. That's just, but yeah. And so, did you race in the past?
Oh yeah. Tom and I both raced with Arma, and it's a vintage motorcycle racing league. And so we would travel around, and we didn't get to go to all the tracks, but professional tracks. And Tom raced a 1939 WLDR, and I raced a 1974 Honda CB350 four-cylinder.
Okay.
And for those bikers out there that may have only ridden on the road and they say, oh, Hondas, poo-poo Hondas, man, they are some of the best built motorcycles around. And for trail riding and dirt bike riding and ice riding, my bike was a Honda dirt bike, and my race bike never let me down, not once. There were some tracks that we did, like Road America in Wisconsin, that are 4 miles long, and it's so wide open that the old bikes would always blow up their motors, and my husband couldn't even race there because he blew up his motor too many times.
Nice.
And mine went flawlessly every time. So
there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
But that's too, that's the quality of, again, taking pride in what you do when you're building and rebuilding and, putting things back together. That matters, that definitely taking time and taking the pride in what you do matters. And I think that's cool. So, when you were racing, what was the best place that you raced at? What was your favorite raceway? Or a race track or, race type, whatever that, because I know you did all kinds of stuff. You did ice racing and all that stuff. So what was the most, let's say what was the most exhilarating?
The most exhilarating is on the ice, but the best track was Road America in Wisconsin, because when I was a kid, my parents were EMTs, and my dad loved going to Road America to watch car races. And so we were there all the time in the summer watching car races, and my parents would be in the ambulance driving around on the track, picking up people that crashed or something, and I never in a million years thought I would be a motorcycle racer, and certainly not racing on that same track that I went to as a kid.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So, so you race, you ride, your wife, your mom, obviously your grandma Lori. So I have some questions. So the premise of all this, of course, as you know, I sent out the questions and stuff like that. We're gonna ask some questions and give you the option to answer them however you like. That's the fun of it, is kind of preserving all that. But if you don't mind, I would like to talk about a couple of the challenges that you've faced, if you don't mind,
Sure.
before, because for me, you're an inspiration. Like a lot of people, know you through all different avenues, but a lot of us have seen your determination and your perseverance when it comes to something that a lot of people don't understand. So it's a different perspective. And
Right.
for those of you, Miss Lori was in a really bad accident in 2015, right? And
Yep.
it you broke your leg,
Yeah.
and
The floorboard pierced my ankle and crushed it, and my body turned all the way around, and I landed on my stomach, so it just about twisted my foot off.
you had, when you were trying to um, recover and stuff like that, they did surgeries and they put in like nuts and bolts and stuff like that, and you had bad reactions to those, right? And they
Yeah.
just really couldn't do what they do to other people, because I'm allergic to everything. I understand that,
Yep.
but from what I know. So I mean, that had to be a hard time. But then you also they decided that you needed to take the leg off, and then they gave you, I mean, you were in the news. Like, when I tell people sometimes you have to advocate for yourself, and the way you can do that is through your courage, but also through the support and love of the people around you. It's not easy, but you advocated the shit out of what you needed, and you also helped so many people past right what you were doing. Like, a lot of times you don't really see the end result of other than your situation, but I followed up on all that stuff. And I mean, really, you opened the door to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't know, because COVID happened and you were doing your best to get your leg taken care of, right?
Yeah, they had just told me I needed amputation, and then COVID started, and wouldn't
There's
they weren't allowed to do
expert.
any surgeries. And so I didn't, at that time, I didn't post a lot on Facebook about my
Right.
personal stuff, but I started posting daily pictures of my foot. And because I figured, social media um, gets people's attention, it grabs them. And my daughter-in-law had uh, asked, she tagged me in a group about Michiganders against excessive quarantine, and they were looking for stories of people that were being denied medical care. I figured I would be considered one of the essential ones, and but they refused to do my surgery,
And
and they told me,
I have
yeah,
pictures up here on the screen of your X-rays and some stuff
yeah,
that were pictures that you posted, and then you when all that happened, you actually got with a news reporter and they interviewed you.
yeah,
And
the reporter saw my story in that group, and actually, it's the only thing I've ever had that went viral, and it had like 7,000 likes and 1.5 thousand comments in just like 5 minutes. But then the governor of the state, or whoever that watches that group, they shut it down. They didn't want
okay,
people seeing that, but the reporter had seen the story right away. And so when he found out that I had evidence and paperwork of everything of them denying me surgery, he's like, wow, this is a good story. And so not only did we do the story through Zoom, but he contacted the hospital and asked them, why aren't you doing her surgery?
I read
And
that.
yeah, so
I read their response too, and all of a sudden, days later, the hospital and the insurance company decided to pony up and allow you to get what you needed finally.
yeah,
That's
I was it only took 22 hours for the doctor to email me on a Saturday and said, all right, we've been allowed to do your surgery. It's going to be an outpatient. They told me I would, come in and go out the same day for an amputation. And, they told me, we'll give you a pain pump and stuff, which helps the pain before the pills can kick in and stuff. But they ended up keeping me for about 2.5 days. And that now they used to keep you for 10 to 14 days. And now 2 to 3 days is standard for amputation since COVID. And then they kick you out of there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was the only one. I was the only person in the operating room and recovery, and the orthopedic ward had been shut down for 6 weeks. I was the first patient there, and within an hour, they had 9 patients in the orthopedic ward. So
Right. That's incredible because that you helped the community get back to what they needed. You helped yourself. Sometimes they say, God helps those who help themselves. Well, that's the epitome of that. And not only, again, the chain reaction and the events that follow, you helped other people. So I have some pictures on the screen. I have you with your crutches after, and I believe the race bike, you guys are at the racetrack. And then I have the one you sent me, your favorite, which we sent out in the announcement for the show. And it's an FLH with saddlebags, and you do
yep,
not have a prosthetic on. Um, but you went ahead and you conquered all that stuff. You went through the sock and the blisters and the it didn't fit and the ups and the downs and my favorite post, I think, through all of it was one day, and just, I mean, because it was something, and I had made a comment to my husband. I said, he goes, do I know her? I was like, yeah, I mean, you know her through stuff that I do, and I talk about her all the time. And he goes, yeah. And he's looking through his computer, and he's like, I have Faber Cycle in my favorites. He's like, you didn't tell me it was that, Lori. And I was like, okay, because the guys and their machinist stuff. So, but you posted one. It said, my grandchildren are such a blessing, and yesterday was a fun family party. Each time I crutched into the house for something, my 3-year-old grandson was right beside me, holding onto my crutch and asking me to hold his hand along the way. Aw, his little face was so cute, so I held his hand, and we crutched up the grassy hill together all day. You never know what you're capable of until you try. It says, my super cool fold-up crutches arrived. I never knew these existed until the other day. They're even more compact than the crutches that latch on your arms, and they will be very handy on the bike and in other travels. I can't wait. There's freedom, honor, and dignity in the truth, and I thank God every day for it. I'm just gonna say, like, I get that. I'm a kids, pets, and old people person. Like, if I can be surrounded with that, the rest. I mean, I love my people around me, but the outside world
yeah,
sometimes will drive you to want to just have those simple, comforting things that fill you up instead of, emptying the tank. It fills you back up. So I'm a proponent of that for sure. So, you actually rode without a prosthetic, right?
yes.
Like,
It took me 2 years before I just got my prosthesis, and because when I first tried to get one, I couldn't walk on it, and it took a year and a half later to find out that I had a mass in the bottom of my stump that had formed. It was like almost hard as a rock, and it was from undissolved sutures and some nerve material that had grown into a mass. And so, because my body doesn't dissolve that stuff, and we didn't know how bad it was at the time, so it took me a long time before I finally could get a prosthesis. So I use my fold-up crutches, and I got my own motorcycle 3-wheeler before I even got my leg, because
I love it.
the freedom, you never see a motorcycle parked at a psychiatrist's office,
That's
because
right.
that is your therapy, and it changes your perspective no matter how you feel that day.
Yes, definitely. And again, you can't back in the day, I'll say it, but that was one of my favorite sayings, and my favorite t-shirt was, if I have to explain, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
That's when, people they shunned away from motorcycles more or less, unless it was the traditional dealership and I know you've seen all the changes like we have, and it's kind of fun to watch these kids come in, but then sometimes you're just like, I understand why our parents would say, "Oh, kids these days."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I get it. I get it. So cool. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you these cool questions.
Sure.
Um, and let's see, I'm going to push another button. Oh, look, there we go. I did it. Okay. So, how long have you been riding?
Uh, since 1998, I got my first bike.
What
So,
bike was that? What did you start
um,
on?
I started on a Honda dirt bike, and I started by trail riding, and that was actually some of the best experience I could have ever had, because it just prepared me for all surfaces.
Right. And it
So,
teaches you to expect everything and be glad that you didn't have to encounter it, right? Because there's so much you have to really. We read traffic riding motorcycles, but when you're trail riding, you have to read everything: tree branches, critters, all that stuff. So yeah, that's a
Yeah, you never know what's going to come up, and it's really sandy in Michigan where I trail ride, and so it got you used to what it would feel like if the tire, slid a little bit, and made you realize that if you do it right, you're not going to lose control, and you actually speed up when that happens, which seems crazy. It takes your brain a while to get used to that thought,
oh yeah. Yeah, that's a thing of the movie Cars keeps coming up because we're doing this Route 66 thing, the Chicks on 66 with the
Yeah.
Ritter chapter. And the movie Cars keeps coming up because I tell everybody, if you haven't seen the movie, like that's the best animated movie ever. Kids or no kids, that's like the bomb. And the moral of the story is really good. But when he teaches them how to race in the dirt because he's a fancy, NASCAR race car. And that's one of my favorite parts because he's like, got to go left to go right, left to go right. And he ends up in the cactus and they got Mater's got to tow him out. So that's always funny. So cool. So what are your favorite rides? Like what's your favorite motorcycle ever? And then what's your favorite route that you've ever ridden?
My favorite motorcycle would actually be the one that I crashed on. It was an Indian, 1945 Indian Chief. And I just love the look of Indians, whether they were the full fender ones or the ones from the 30s that had, the other style of fenders. I just think the lines and everything about them is cool. And, you can let off on a spark advance and backfire the bike, which always makes people jump. And it's a lot of fun.
I love it. So like, you're like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, right? You got a Ghost Rider. That pattern is full.
Yeah,
I love it.
Tom actually did that once on a poker run we were doing, and somebody down the line said that he was doing it to a cow that was running alongside in the field, and somebody else said the cow died. He was like legs up when they went by.
Oh man,
heart attacked the cow or something.
And I believe that. My mom set one of them alarm clocks with the bells next to my bird cage when I was a kid. They slept in the living room and my bird cage was there. And the alarm went off. And when I came home from school, I had a cover over, but he was feet up. And it had to be the alarm. I mean, what else? Nothing. It was never there. They took it out of the bedroom. Yeah, that was pretty rough. So, and what's your favorite route? What's the best route you've ever ridden?
I don't know about a specific route, but I can say just anywhere riding around Michigan. I live out in the country, and we say, we don't have to go somewhere to ride in a beautiful area. We just leave our driveway and start riding along the back roads, and it's just so lush and green, and there's tree canopies, and I love the fields that you see, and it's just different terrain and twisty roads no matter where you go.
That's awesome. Now, Miss Laura said that last week about Wisconsin because it's the same thing. I live in Florida. I grew up in Florida, so most everything's palm trees, sand, and flat. We don't. If you get into northern Florida, you get some hills. I guess we call them hills. You guys would call them like mounds, like a pitcher's mound, a mound because they're not very big. Here, if you want like a mountain, you have to go on a big, large on ramp. That's about the extent of that. So, all right. So then, who would be your childhood hero?
Let's see. That one was a tough one. Oh, geez. My childhood hero. See, I didn't think about this one question a lot earlier. I would have to say it. Maybe even my mom. My mom, she, didn't have. She had regular education and stuff and raised 3 kids. And then when I was in the 5th grade, she just decided to go back to college and become a nurse because she wanted to better herself. And so she became a nurse, and I helped her study, and she worked night shift. And then she got her master's degree and became a nurse practitioner and did that up until she retired, and she passed away last year. But she did whatever she had to do. She never complained, and she's where I get a lot of my drive and determination from, for sure.
And strength too, obviously.
Yeah,
Sounds like she was a very strong woman. So then
yeah, she was.
who is your motorcycle hero?
My motorcycle hero would have to be a friend of mine. His name is Craig, and he is handicapped. His legs don't work. He had been in an accident where he was on a road trip sleeping in the back of a van while somebody else was driving, and the driver fell asleep, and so he rolled around, and it did something to his spine, so his legs don't work. But he has a motorcycle that he put like training wheels on. He has a button, so when he comes to a stop, he can put those wheels down, and he has a spot to hook on his forearm crutches, and his brother usually rides with him because his brother will help him out. And if he goes somewhere and stops, he won't get off his motorcycle. He'll just sit on it and talk to you. But he can use his forearm crutches to get around some, and he really helps motivate anyone, because
That's
if he can
inspiring.
ride, anyone can still ride.
Yeah, definitely. That's an inspiration for sure. And like, so how did you meet him?
I met him through selling motorcycle parts. His brother had bought an old Harley 1937 WL that Tom used to ride, and so then we them through met him through his brother, and we see him at a lot of swap meets. And then when he had Tom work on an old teens Harley for him, and so then he would drive me to some of my appointments when Tom couldn't get away, because I had so many appointments. Tom couldn't always drive me to all of them, so Craig would drive me to some and just stay and wait in his van. And then he ended up buying my old Indian when I sold my 1939 Sport Scout so that I could get my three-wheeler. He bought it to put in his living room to just look at it. And that made me
Awesome.
really proud, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to see some other girl riding my motorcycle around the swap meet. I just couldn't handle it. And
No.
Tom's like, it's just a material thing. I'm like, no, you don't get it. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, and that's that thing too. Like with horses, same thing. Like I grew up around horses, motorcycles. I just went through that kind of with my motorcycle about we're coming to an understanding. But you can't just sell the horse because it doesn't do the jumps. You got to go through all of it with it, train it, and you got to have more resolve than it does. Sometimes you got to both do it together. But yeah, I understand that too, because it's part of your heart. I'm like
Yeah.
that. I get it once I get attached, forget it. Like so.
Yeah. It belonged to a friend of ours, and it was his last motorcycle, and he wanted me to have it. I used to do landscaping, and I would do work in his yard. And so he passed away, and Tom restored the bike for me, and it was done just for me. It was special.
Well, that's incredible that he put that in his living room so that, it's just there. Like, okay, cool. Like, for me, that's better than a television, better than a computer. I could sit and look at that all day long.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. All right. So then, what would be your favorite road food?
That would have to be fresh fruit and cheese and crackers.
Okay. Cheese.
So,
That's that Midwest thing too. Laura said cheese. That's her go-to, but she has a dairy farm now. So I
okay.
think Miss Laura Clock. She used to be Clockworks. She had the world's fastest bagger, but she now is on
Yeah.
a dairy farm, and that's her. But it was always her go-to thing. She's from Wisconsin. I guess they have cheese heads
Cheese
there.
heads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I was born in Wisconsin. I'm a cheesehead.
Oh, see, now it makes sense. That's perfect. Okay, so then this one is really hard, and I found that out. So you don't have to give just one; you can give two. If you have one, that's cool too. Doesn't matter. We're in no hurry. We're just having a good time here. It's all about the fun and preserving the stories. So, most cherished motorcycle memory.
That would be One of them was when I was racing and I was beating the guys, and the best I ever did was second place. And I had one guy got so mad that he tried protesting my bike. And because there were specific rules about what you were allowed to do and not allowed to do to keep them period correct, and his protest didn't work. But it just makes guys so mad when some girl beats them, you know.
That's
So
too funny. And so I'm a motor maid. I don't know if you're a motor maid
no,
yet.
I'm not.
Okay, because like that was one of the things that I truly loved about the history of the club was Dot Robinson. She would go on the track and she would kick their asses and ride around. And then before she would go to the award ceremony or the dinner, she would go back to the room, put on her fanciest dress, her shoes, put her lipstick on, put her hair up, all darned and ready to go. And she would go to the dinner in the most, she had her girl moment too, because we have that. I know
Yeah.
people look at some of us because we ride motorcycle stuff, but we do enjoy that. And for us, like yourself, I'm sure, we have incredible men in our lives, so they're the only ones that get to see that, other than the outside, if you put on some makeup and you're going to dinner or something. But the actual real femininity, the what do you call it, the sex goddess in the room or whatever, they're the ones that get that, not everybody else. But yeah, like that's something that I really loved. And I think the world of the history of the club, but I thought she was the shit too, because her husband owned a dealership, right? And she rode motorcycles. So when she got pregnant with Betty Falls, her daughter, he said, "Oh, you got to have a car." And she's like, "No, all right, to take her to the hospital, take her home from the hospital, you have to have a car." She's like, "No, I don't have to have a car." He bought her a car. She burned it in the driveway.
Oh
So
my
she
god.
didn't have to drive the car. Like, okay, if that's not a biker chick, I don't know
Wow.
what to tell you, right? Like, so when I started learning some of the history, and then the women, they're incredible because they travel all over, and you don't ever, you're always, it's like home. You can stop anywhere. And then they ride with little ladies that are like, even like Gloria. We did a 700 or 800 mile day, and like when we stopped for gas, she never took her helmet off. You were getting water or ice cream. She was ready to go. Come on, let's move, let's move. When we got to
Wow.
the hotel 700 miles later, she was ready to go get dinner. She was 5 minutes pressed and ready. I was like, damn, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. So yeah, they're incredible. So maybe one day we'll get you to do that. I don't know. I mean, I know
Yeah.
everybody does their thing, but I definitely sponsor you because you definitely got what it takes. If you
Oh,
don't, I don't know who does. That's for darn
no.
sure.
Well, thank you.
So then, okay, if money didn't matter and you could road trip anywhere, where would you go and with who?
Road trip anywhere. I would have to say out to Arizona where my dad lives now. And that would be beautiful country all the way out there. And I would definitely go with my husband Tom. He's
And
he's my riding partner, and we have the same idea as how long we want to go before stopping and stuff. And we're not big on riding in big groups of people because there's always stupid people doing stupid things that can make
yeah,
everyone else crash or something just so they can show off or whatever.
yeah, people don't realize, they don't understand that there's so much to it until they've experienced it, and sometimes that's a little bit too late. But you your husband has always, he's been your rock and your support, and I imagine he's like me and my you and him are like me and my husband. I mean, like, we are a team. We're cohorts in crime. I ride left, he rides right. We know we read traffic the same way, like you said, so that's that thing. But it takes a lot of a human being to watch the person you love struggle through all the things you've struggled through, and be there and still, I mean, help you get through to I guess reacclimate to the things that you were usually used to doing. You just had to do a separate way. So not only did it change for you, things changed for him as well. So I mean, he gets kudos. I said that in my email, like,
Oh yeah.
send my love and respect, because I again, you give him the utmost credit in like your posts and stuff like that, and you guys have an awesome business. So, and I have this picture here, and I believe this is you guys in the archives of the Harley Davidson
Oh
Museum.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a really awesome, really cool picture. And I like that. That's being in the archives is really neat. That's one of the neatest experiences you'll ever have. Okay.
For sure.
So then the guy wrote in tonight, JD, he wants to know why everybody says that old Harleys, leak oil. And what's your input on that?
So mine would have to be, like you learned about with the total loss oil systems. Some people don't realize that there's a pump where you actually let the oil out as you're going down the road, and it refills it with fresh oil because it's not a recirculating system. So all the way up through the VLs, which was 1936, they had total loss oil system. And then other ones too, if your bike's not warmed up enough, the gaskets don't seal on the heads all the way and it can leak out. And also, some bikes, if they've been sitting for a while, the oil will leak out of the oil tank and go down into the crankcase, and it'll sump there, and it'll leak out through some spots as it does. And then so when people start it up and it smokes really bad, that's because their oil sumped in their crankcase.
Right. So, and that's the thing, like the newer bikes, like you said, the ones that aren't total loss oil system, you get into, things that people are like, really, like, until you've actually physically been there, touched it, looked at it. Like, I was lucky on the Cannonball. Like, I had legends. I was fortunate enough to work with Dale Waxler. Like, he showed me stuff. Steve Hunsinger, you know what I mean? Like, and he had rebuilt Chris's bike, so he knew everything, like rocker arm adjustment. I'm like, well, what do I put my feeler gauge at? They're like, feeler gauge? What are you talking about? I'm just like, they're like, yeah, no. I'm like, oh, we're in the matchbook status, huh? And they're like, yeah, here, let me show you how this is done. I learned what green mercury grease, how incredible that stuff is. That's like that's a go-to for antiques. So that was very cool. But yeah, that's a whole you have to learn to appreciate that. I guess that's like, if there's a band that everybody around you likes and you don't really like them, and then you go to see them live in person and you're like, wow, they actually are really good. Same thing with the antique motorcycles. And I know that the cross country chase and the Cannonball, I know that a lot of your riders, they use your products and your parts and stuff like that. And you guys have a lot of stuff with going on with that stuff.
Are you aware that Chris Summer Simmons' bike Effie has our handlebars on it, and she's put over 11,000 miles on with those handlebars?
Yes, and I was gonna say, Buddy doesn't though, right? Buddy she has your handlebars on Buddy too.
The 36? She may have. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do. But I mean, that's like, it's crazy because, again, to appreciate those motorcycles, it's an acquired thing. But I know that they're doing like scholarships and things like that for these runs to get some of the younger riders in. Yep. And the Motorcycle Club of America is also like doing programs to get young riders to participate, come to events. I mean, I don't know if anybody's never been to an antique motorcycle swap meet, especially Davenport. I mean, it's off the chain, a whole different thing. Like the Cannonball was a whole different thing. The camaraderie is different, even though it's motorcycle related. There's the competitiveness, but the everybody's in it to help everybody. That really speaks to who we are as motorcycle riders, bikers, like the community. We do that with everything, not just each other, but anything that we're involved in. So that, for me, that's super cool. I dig the shit out of that, and I think that's cool. And you guys, so let's see if I got this one here. This is a flyer. So you do events. You just did a ladies swap meet, right?
No, we're having a big event at Wasion this summer. And so the reason our committee, the women's committee, was started in the AMCA, it's the first ever of its kind, is because some of the women felt left out. And so, in the 23 years that I've been vending, the women don't know the parts. Many of them don't know what they're looking at, and they just sort of stand off to the side and look lost, and they're afraid to talk to anyone or anything. And so I always try and engage them. And so the women's committee was formed to be a base where women know they can go to see familiar faces, and we've been getting, you know, a list of people's contact information. So then we've been trying to plan special events at swap meets for the ladies to go to, you know. And so now even women who had stopped going because their husband passed away, suddenly they're going to swap meets again because they know there's other women there that they can connect with. So,
And I love that. And you know, because you've been riding a long time, but like even there was a point in time where it wasn't fashionable in the normal thing. You know, some women rode because their husbands had dealerships or motorcycle shops, or, you know, they just wanted to, but it was far and few between. Now, you know, I think we take up a decent percentage. It's almost like 18% of all registered motorcycle riders belong to women. You know, motorcycles belong to women. So that's super cool. I think that's awesome that you're doing that. It's almost like a mentorship, no matter what age, how old you are, or anything like that, and they get to come in and they get to learn. So anytime you do any stuff like that, please send it to me so I can promote it. And this one is in June, and I think
it's in July. I think it's like the second weekend in July.
I need better glasses.
Yeah,
It's
that's
small.
all right. That's all right. And there's actually 2 different events going on. That's the first ever that there's been 2 events for the ladies. So the first one is our annual meet and greet, and that one's on Friday afternoon. And that we always have raffle prizes and refreshments and stuff. And that's just a gathering for all of us to get together and then discuss what, you know, our hopes and dreams are for what we'd like to see and do for the next year. You know, I've started making merchandise and making cool shirts, and we have a motto now: old school because old's cool. And
I love that. I want one of those. I'll definitely have to get one of those from you.
I'll make you one. Yeah, I make
that would be cool.
The shirts now because we had tried before getting some shirts made, and the guy right at the last minute after the club agreed to pay for it and everything, the guy that was printing them, I think it was because he was dealing with women, all of a sudden he said, "Nope, I'm not doing this unless, you know, we make it for twice as many," and that just blew the whole deal. So I was soured on shirts for a while, so now I'm making them myself, and I don't have to worry about anyone else coming in on it.
Right, so self-sufficient.
So then on the Saturday afternoon, the Antique Motorcycle Foundation, the vice president is Denise Rich Gross, and she's on our women's committee also. So I've been helping her with her event. She's having women's conference where Chris Summer Simmons is the guest speaker, and there'll be some other presenters there, and I'll be one of them, and some other people that anyone that's been following the AMCA has come to know, like Kanjana. She's from, I think it's Thailand, and she rides old Indian Scout. And Thelma, who races, she's been racing a UL, and her husband's now building her a 45 because the UL is a little heavy for a racetrack.
She do Sons of Speed or anything like that? She do Sons of Speed race?
She hasn't done Sons of Speed yet, but she just got into it. She started riding on the ice, and she got a love for that. And she started out when she was watching the Trog and the Race of Gentlemen, for those that don't know what Trog is.
Right, I was going to say, you got to explain that to some of them.
Yeah.
So and that's coming up soon, right? That's in June also?
I think that one is, yeah. And so then she was just a bystander watching her and her husband, and she had her UL there, and somebody's like, "Oh, you should race it." And she had never raced before, just like me, you know. She never thought she'd be racing, and so now she races up, you know, she'll be racing. We have a swap meet next week in Indiana, and she'll be racing there, and she may be racing at Wasion, and so
So if anybody's around for any of those events, make sure that you get out there, because that, again, that's incredible stuff. And I'm sure if she hasn't yet, she hears this, she'll be like, Sons of Speed, okay, let's go. Because that's how that goes for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. I have a couple more questions. So we're going to ask you for your 5 good things, but first I'm going to ask you to tell us something good about yourself that others don't know. like for the most part?
Okay. One of my favorite things that many people don't know is that my husband and I met at Bike Week in Florida at the Iron Horse Saloon in 1997, and we were smitten right from the start. And we knew God put us together for a reason, and we spent all 10 days together. And then
Nice.
after I went home, I lived in another state, and we were like teenagers, would spend hours on the phone together. And then he sent me a ticket and I flew out to see him. Then he came to see me. Then once we met halfway in Pennsylvania for one night, and after 6 months of that, him and another friend moved me out there, and the rest is history. And so
That is awesome.
yeah,
You
so we've
said
been together 25 years now.
you said smitten. Nobody uses
Yeah.
that word anymore. That's like a Don Williams song. I love Don Williams. And,
Yeah.
it's Merle Haggard and country stuff. And, they say, we like holding hands and pitch and woo. Like,
Yeah.
people are
Yep.
like, what's that? And it's like, yeah, no, it's called courtship. Like, it's a whole,
Right. Yep.
it's like, yeah, for sure. Okay, so then before we close, I would love for you to tell, and I can't thank you enough for participating and sharing all your stuff. It's
Oh, this
incredibly
is
fun.
fun. Thanks.
And I hope that we get to do this more often. Like, for sure, we'll definitely have you back. Maybe we'll do a couples episode. So I have a couple like ones that I would like to do. Like, we'll get you and Tom and, a couple other people that are couples and get your answers. Like, because then it's almost like the newlywed game, like, is his answer the same?
Right.
It's all about the answers. So, okay,
Sure.
cool. So would you tell us your 5 good things?
My 5 good things, well, for sure at the very top of the list, and for those, who each have their own beliefs, like you said, would have to be Jesus Christ, my Savior. He has changed my outlook on life, and I used to wonder, well, how does he save? And, he's part of the reason why I am so upbeat. And he told me when I had my amputation that even if you can't do anything else, you can inspire people. So that has been one of my goals, and obviously it's working.
That's a good thing to have.
Yeah. And my second one would be my husband. He has supported me through all of this, and the caretaker has it almost way harder than the person going through
Yes.
the stuff themselves. And I've been through so many surgeries the last 7 years, and I was always recovering, and by the time I was starting to move around again, then I'd have to have another surgery, and I ended up with chronic Lyme disease and just all sorts of stuff. So he has been my rock, and he said, I'll never leave you, so you're stuck with me. And and so when I come home from the grocery store, he's right there to unload the groceries. Without me saying anything. And in the winter, he brings the car up to the door for me, cleans it all off for me, and has it ready if I have to go somewhere, and make sure it's all salted, and just any little thing you can think of now, he's done it.
That's awesome. So that's 2.
All right. Number 3 would have to be my grandchildren. I have 8 grandchildren. I'm a young grandma because I have, yes, 8. I have 2 stepsons. I was never able to have any kids, and but when I married Tom, he had 2 boys, and they came to live with us, so I helped raise them. So they're my sons, and they're a little older than what I would be able to have if I had bare children. So I have 8 grandchildren already, and they are the best thing in the world. They, I used to be alcoholic, and I did a bunch of drugs, and I could never find that inner peace without having that, those crutches to lean on. And when I got grandchildren, I said, I don't want them seeing a drunk grandma, later as they grow up. I don't want to be that kind of mentor. So I quit, and I've been sober ever since. And
It's fantastic. Yeah, they change your world.
They do.
Kids do that, and then like when you have kids and they have kids, you never think you love your kids anymore. You could never love anybody more than your kids. But then they have kids, and you're just like, mind fight. He's your favorite. She's your favorite. And it's like, nope, neither one. He's my favorite now.
Yeah.
So, and This kid is 4. He'll be 4 in July 1st. He can explain to you a planetary gear, how it works, methanol, how the monster trucks work. I mean, he works in the
Sweet.
motorcycle shop with Grandpa and Mimi, so we do our, he's very, he's almost genius, like he's got that going on. He reminds me of my dad. My dad's not with us anymore. And I swear the world just couldn't have two of them because they're so much alike. And my dad was his own character. So now he looks at me sometimes with that mischievous look, and I'm like, oh, I see my dad. I see it. I see it. There it is. So that was 3. So go ahead, give me number 4.
All right, number 4 would have to be motorcycles. And no matter what, I had one nurse that I had just come out of the recovery room, and she's like, so I guess you're not going to be riding anymore, are you? And I said, well, yes, I am, and she
Good luck with that.
Yeah, she got all mad at me, and she picked the wrong time to pick on me, just out of the recovery room and back in my room. And I got kind of snotty with her because it's like, leave me alone, and my parents were always cool with it. And it's like, if I have to explain, you wouldn't understand.
Right. And that's at a point where you got to just tell them, listen, piss off. I'm not interested. I'll do me. You do you. Let's, do your job and let's move on. Right.
Yeah. And Tom told me, he says, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make sure you can keep doing the stuff you love that you used to do. So we'll get you something you can ride. And the cool thing is my shovel head has a foot clutch and a jockey shifter.
I saw that. And you got the little box, and it's so cool the way you got the box and you got room for your prosthetic. Because I thought that was neat when you were putting it together, like getting it all done up. And I was like, look at that. Because I ride a shovel head. I ride 78 shovel head that I redid. And it's like, there's each model of motorcycle has its thing, but it's something about that shovel head, and they go, and it'll carry that trike load around, no problem. So
and they say, and I believe it's true too, is shovel head is the best sounding Harley there is. And so we were trying to find something cool to put on the back to put my stuff in, and Tom found that old 75-year-old Harley crate in his stuff, cool. And it's like, man, that's cool. And it's a perfect size for my fold-up crutches and my prosthesis and stuff, because I don't drive with it on, and it doesn't fit when I drive with my car. I drive with my left foot, and it won't fit in there, down there by my feet, and so I take it off. Yeah, I take it off right now when I ride my motorcycle, and after I get used to it, I may leave it on. I'm not sure yet, but sometimes you just get tired of wearing it too, and you gotta just take it off for a while. So it's really cool to watch people's faces when you're going down the road without a leg. Or like with my liner on, it's got this big pin sticking out, so it looks like you got this big pin
hanging out of your
coming right out of your leg. Yeah.
When I was like way younger, again, with that, growing up around motorcycles, and there was a man in town who was one of my dad's closest friends, and I didn't know he wore a prosthetic. One day we were all hanging out, and he was a jokester or whatever. He tells this guy at the bar, he's like, hey, you ever had a bootleg beer? I'm standing there, and I'm like, what is he saying? And the guy's like, no. He goes, you want one? He goes, yeah, sure. And he pulled that prosthetic off, and he poured beer in it and handed him the prosthetic. That guy he was going to lose his lunch. It was the most incredible thing ever. And I was like, wow, like of all the things you could come up with, that's a bootleg beer for no doubt, for sure. So that was cool. Okay, what's number 5?
Number 5 would be family in general. I have an awesome family, and we all stick together, and my brother got murdered in 2018, and it's actually put the rest of us even closer together, because we don't do anything or go anywhere without letting each other know, and we're all spread out in different areas. And my sister travels overseas as a missionary, and we're just really close, even though we're far apart. And they're just awesome support. They love you no matter what, and they always know the right thing to say at the right time.
Yeah, and family, family. You have the good, you have the bad, you have all of it. But your family, some days, every day you love each other. Some days you may not like each other, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, it's the love that's there, and that's crazy. So your sister's a missionary, so that community service and that involvement in things around you, I guess that helps the motorcycle lifestyle too. But that's in your nature, obviously, in your family. You guys are very close
Yeah.
knit. You like that, so that's super cool. Well, I am so thankful to you. Like again, I always talk about you when we talk about certain things and challenges and things like that. And again, I ride shovelhead and I like antique motorcycles. One of the ladies that's riding on the Chicks on 66 is too funny because you posted this on your Facebook, a picture of her bike about how like you don't post very often, but how clean this bike was. And that's Cindy Messmer. She
Oh
has that
yeah.
blue canyon.
Yep.
I'm so excited to go on this run because I get to participate with that. And I mean, like, look at that. Like, just to be riding next to that is like, but it's good. It's clean.
Well,
I was like,
maybe that should be the shirt I make for you then, because I have her motorcycle on one of the shirt that says "Old School because Old School." Ladies of the AMCA
yeah,
shirt. So
definitely.
I'll get your size and I'll send you one. And
that would be awesome. I would love that for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then any kind, if you want to link to your merchandise and stuff like that, I'm working on the website now. I'm learning all that. This is a do-it-yourselfer thing for now until I figure it all out. Because you got to, how it is. You have to do the job yourself to know what's involved before you can ask somebody else to do it. So that's pretty much that. Well, please give
I know, because I built my own websites and stuff, and that's how you know it's done right, if you do it yourself. And one thing I have to say is, one of my sayings is, impossible is just an opinion. So
that's too funny.
Remember that.
It's just an opinion. Yeah, that's a good one. That's like me. Can't isn't in my vocabulary. I can do anything. It might turn out really shitty. It might turn out really great, but I can do anything. It's just what the end result is. And people forget too that life is about choices. Like you made the choice, the conscious choice to not go back to stuff that you, like you said, you could have been drinking, drugging, whatever. Your perspective on everything changed, and you went through struggles, but you're an inspiration, and I don't care anybody who doesn't see that yet. They will now, because like you're on my list of great people, and I really mean that from my heart, because like again, it's real easy for people to turn on the fluff, and everything's peachy keen and whatnot, but when it comes down to struggles, they don't realize, they bitch and moan about, okay, well, this happened and that got broken or whatever, but they don't really realize that there's other things in life. You lose a loved one, a limb, and we in the motorcycle world experience that, I think, a lot because of the challenges around us. So I just think you're an inspiration. So, and anybody out there watching, make sure you check out the Antique Motorcycle Club of America, ladies of the Antique Motorcycle Club of America, Faber Cycle and Chicago Motorcycle Supply. Like any of that stuff you need, you have old stuff, you need a bike restored, you need stuff, they'll tell you all the things you need and get you moving. And Miss Lori, please give the kids and the grandkids my love. Please tell Tom we send our best, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Athena. This has been awesome. You're awesome. So
you are
doing
too.
A great job.
Thanks. I'm pushing the buttons. I'm getting it done. All right, kiddo. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you again so much.
All right. Sounds good. Good night.
See you soon. Night. All right, everybody. So that was her 5 good things. I just enjoyed that so much. Like, Miss Lori is awesome. Sorry I was late tonight. We had a technical difficulty, but I'm working that out. I got it. Okay, so don't forget, if you want to participate in the 5 good things, please send pictures if it's about good stuff so I can post it here in my little thing. Or ask Athena. Just email athenaafterdark@aol.com. The website is a work in progress. I'm almost there, ready to launch it. And so I have my afterthought. So tonight's afterthought for me is pretty much everyone has some situation, good, bad, different. You never know what someone's struggles are. So you have to take the time to reflect on in your life on what's important. You got to kind of think about it in terms that you can relate to. Like for me personally, what's important to me and the whole ball of wax, that actually helps me go through the good times. And then it definitely gets me through the hard times. That's what's important. And everybody has different stuff, You just got to appreciate the chance, any chance you get to be able to reflect on that, look back and say, you know, I do have some good stuff. So if you're having a bad day, something's not great, not sure what to do, again, have any feelings that you want, that things aren't right for you, need somebody to talk to, there's hotlines out there to call. You can email here, we can forward to whoever, whatever. Always willing to help out in that respect. Just make sure that you do everything you can to be kind to yourself and then to others, because that's super important and it does matter. So I'm going to say thank you and good night. Next week, we're going to, I'm trying to get Beaner on here. So that might actually happen, which it'll be absolutely fun too. In June, I'm on the road for Chicks on 66 and we're going to do the shows live. So I have some really good guests lined up and then some of the writers that we're writing with. And in July, I have more great guests. I have Songbird, Jennifer Santalucci. I have, we got some good content coming up. So next week, we're going to change the scenery a little bit. We'll still be here. We're going to change the level. Don's going to do the production. So if you hear any, I don't know, comments from the stands over there, it's probably him. Just, laugh at it because we're laughing at it. This is all about to have fun and preserve the stories. And so if you want to be on the show, listen, send an email too. This isn't just for certain industry people or anything like this. For anybody who rides a motorcycle that's interesting, has good attitude, positive outlook. And if you have something that you want to share that's community related, somebody doing something good in your community, something you want me to feature in the cultural corner, a good book, a play, doesn't have to always be around motorcycles, but just send it because I'm always up for some fun. And usually so are my guests. So thank you again for watching Athena After Dark, and we'll see you next week, Monday at 10 o'clock. And I'm doing my best. It was 10:14 today, but that was my technical difficulties. I couldn't hear. So, all right. Peace out. Be safe. Love to everybody.